Good morning. Happy Tuesday. So we've been talking about how life, our economic cycle, sometimes relationships can all be like seasons. And what season are we in and what season is coming? So we talked about that. Right now we're clearly in winter, right? We've got a worldwide pandemic. We've got shutdowns. We've got things shutting down again. We've got high unemployment. So we talked about, well, what do you do in winter? Well, you prepare. Winter is when you set your goals. Winter is when you set your budgets. Winter is, the analogy of what a farmer does through all of these cycles is a great way to guide yourself as you go through all of these different times. Because, if you're not 90 in watching this, is this the last time that we're going to have an economic crisis? Absolutely not. Is there going to be another economic crisis? You bet. Is it going to be worse than the one that we're dealing with now? You bet. There's always going to be these types of cycles. That's how things cleanse themselves. That's how we restart. That's how we rebirth. That's how the whole process works. So, don't fear these times. Just prepare for them. We all know that winter follows fall, so just be ready for it. Winter can be fine. One of the things to remember is in winter, some people freeze to death, other people ski. So you can enjoy winter, you just got to be prepared for it. So in wintertime, you prepare for spring, you do your budget, you figure out, what am I going to plant? How am I going to do it? Where am I going to put it? How much stuff am I going to need? You work on your equipment, right? The farmer gets all of his equipment ready to roll so that when spring comes, he's ready to pounce. He's ready to get out there and get into the field and get his crops planted. So now's the time that you prepare. Now's the time that you gather things and backfill, as the stock market says. Then comes spring. What do we do in spring? In spring, we plant. Do we expect to reap in spring? No. Can it happen occasionally if you've prepared from a prior spring? Sure. Every now and then spring comes and all of a sudden corn prices go crazy. And if you've got corn sitting in a silo, then you can benefit in a spring. Or if you've got fertilizer sitting in storage, if you've saved, then you can benefit in a spring. But springs are set up to plant. Springs are set up for new beginnings. They're set up to start the new process. So you've got to go sow the seeds, and you work like crazy in the spring. It's probably the toughest time of work because you work like crazy, but you don't see any results. The farmer has to work longer hours in the fall. They can plant their fields in the spring now in a couple of days. It's kind of amazing, actually. In the fall, it still takes them months to bring in the crop. But when you're bringing in money, that doesn't seem like work, does it? How hard, going out there and bringing in money every day, that's a lot easier to do than when you're out there and it's cold and it's in the spring and you're planting everything and you're not seeing any results. You just know that you're going to see those results down the road. That's harder. That's harder to do. So spring's one of the harder times. So today we're going to talk about the next step, and the next step is summer. Well, what do you do in summer? What does the farmer do in summer? Well, the farmer does two things in summer. Make believe like your parents. The farmer nurtures and protects. That's what the farmer does in the summer. Think about your garden if you planted a garden. If you do nothing to the garden, what happens? Does it go great? Let's say you even do a great job of setting up your garden. You've prepared your soil perfectly. You've got the top-notch seeds. You've planted them perfectly. You've got your rows. You've got everything set up, and then you just let it go. What happens? The weeds are going to come and it's going to overtake it, right? That is every part of our lives. My challenge with the book, The Secret, is the book, The Secret, my interpretation of it, is just keep putting out to the universe what you want, and then it'll show up. That's not how it works. And, maybe your interpretation to The Secret is different, but If all you do, and the secret is great things, put out love, put out the positive vibes, that's all wonderful. But at the end of the day, you've got to do the work. Weeds happen automatically. Gravity is automatic. You don't have to do anything to grow a pile of weeds. If you just have a pile of dirt and let it go, it isn't long and you've got a big booming pile of weeds. They can grow like crazy. But in order to grow flowers or in order to grow vegetables, you've got to nurture and protect them. You've got to water them. You've got to weed, and then that's nurturing. And then you got to protect. Other animals will come and they'll eat your garden. They'll eat your seeds. They'll eat your flowers. They'll dig up your bulbs. They'll eat your fruit. They'll eat your vegetables. They'll take it all. You've got to protect it. Even if you just want flowers, I'm a big outside flower guy because I used to do it with my grandmother. The outside flowers, if you just leave them alone, they won't get enough water and they'll die. And animals will come and eat them. Deer love them. So you've got to nurture them, you got to water them like crazy, and you've got to protect them from those animals. So summertime, once you've planted the seeds, then you have to tend to the seeds. You've got to nurture and you got to protect. Nurture like a mother and protect like a father. Nurture like, I'm sorry, I should say that differently. Nurture like feminine energy and protect like masculine energy. And that's the way that we have to do everything when the summer comes. So once you get your business going, I love my analogy of the merry-go-round on the playground, right? Summertime is once you get the merry-go-round going, you still have to stand there and push it. You can't just let it all go. It's not as hard a work as it is sowing the seeds. It's not as hard as work as it is creating the garden. Creating the garden is much more work. Tilling, planting all the stuff. You know, in the winter you figure out what are you going to grow. You make sure you get your seeds. So it's not as hard a work. Watering isn't as hard. Weeding isn't all that hard if you stay ahead of it. But what happens if you ignore it for a period of time? What happens if you ignore your business? What happens if you ignore your health? What happens if you ignore your relationship with your spouse or with your kid? What happens if you don't pay attention? Does it get better or does it get worse? It gets worse. If that merry-go-round, if you turn away and you don't pay attention for a few minutes and you come back, now it's slowed down to the point that you have to really push to get it going again. Whereas if you just do the little bit each time, now you can keep it going without much effort. That's how people have more than one business, is they get one business going so that it takes little effort, which means they've got people there working for them who know what they're doing. Then they start another business. They don't try to start two businesses at one time. Then they get the second business going and they get it so that it's going pretty effortlessly, and then comes the next business. So you do one at a time. Focus on one thing at a time, get it going strong, and then move on to the next thing. Unless it doesn't work, right? Then you can change your approach and go work on something else. So, winter is preparation. Spring is when we plant. We don't expect to harvest, but we plant. And we know that we're going to do a bunch of work and it's going to work out down the road. And then in summertime, we nurture and we protect. Pay attention to the things that are important. Pull the weeds because they're automatic. And take care of things. Don't wait until it's in trouble before you pay attention to it. Stay ahead of the game. Don't wait until that merry-go-round slows down before you start pushing it again. Don't wait until your personal life is in crisis. If you're not paying enough attention to your spouse, if all your attention is on your child, don't wait until that relationship is in crisis. I've represented so many people in divorces, and so many people, all of a sudden, the child goes off to college, and they look at each other and they go, well, who are you? You know, they love the person, but they're not in love with the person. They've spent so much time focusing on their child, and they never focused on their relationships, that they don't dislike each other, but they've just completely grown apart. They don't have anything in common anymore. You have to take time to nurture things. If your child reaches a certain age and you just decide, well, that's the end of that, and I don't pay any attention to that relationship anymore, Well, over time, it's going to suffer. Everything takes effort, but if you do it on a consistent basis, it takes less effort. If you consistently eat the right foods and consistently exercise, then staying a healthy weight and staying in healthy shape is a lot less effort than if you let it all go for years and years and years. And the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be to get back. If you ignore that garden for an entire season, when you come back, what are you going to have? Well, you're going to have a disaster. So you're going to have to know that you're going to have to put in a huge amount of effort to get it back to where it was. So summer is for nurturing and protecting. Nurture like feminine energy, protect like masculine energy. And then comes fall. Tomorrow we will talk about fall. Have a great Tuesday, everybody. We're all in this together. Let's take care of each other.